actually. Mary's going to go ahead and start our PowerPoint, and we're going to tell you all about what's going to happen for the next hour and introduce our team. So Mary, when you're ready, I'm going to start and turn it over to Tamara.
Welcome everyone to today's advocacy training in preparation for the 47th annual legislative reception. For today's talking points, we will share what to expect when you arrive at the legislative reception, how to find and contact your legislators. We will run through some helpful tips to building a relationship with your legislators, to share issues that are important to you. For the second part of the training, we will introduce Nora Bent, Director of Government Affairs and Strategic Partnerships of the ARC of Massachusetts. Nora will highlight the legislators being recognized at this year's event. We'll share priority bills and share ideas on what you can do with the public. Before we dive in, I'd like to turn it over to Lee to begin with introductions. Lee.
Everyone, my name is Lee LaRue, and I'm the training manager for the Massachusetts Developmental Disabilities Council.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm the Self-Advocacy Liaison Assistant for the Council.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tamara Huntley, and I'm the Self-Advocacy Liaison for the Council.
Hello, everyone. My name is Andre Williams, and I am also a self-advocacy liaison for the council. I don't know if they're on the call.
That's okay. Next slide, please. So she should be here, but we have Jennifer Bertrand. She is from the MDDC. She's the Deputy Director. We have Josh Gladstone. He will also be at the reception, Disability Policy Specialist. And Caitlin Stober. She is our Disability Policy Assistant. And we will share all of their names again with their contact information. So if anyone wants to connect with their legislators between now and the reception, they would be happy to work with you and get visits set up in advance.
So to help you get prepared for this annual event, I will review some important things to know. To get into the general public entrance, use the one located on General Hooker Way. Visitors needing an accessible entrance using the ride or getting dropped off should use the Ashburton Park entrance. The Ashburton Park entrance on Bowden Street is the accessible entrance for the State House. Visitors using the ride or getting dropped off can use the Capitol Coffee House at 122 Bowden Street as the drop-off point address. This is across the street from the Ashburton Park entrance. The State House accessible entrance is directly across the street. Now, if you are arranging for large groups of visitors with mobility impairments to be dropped off by vans or buses, you should notify the State House in advance with the State House number. The State House main number is 617-722-2000. Once in, you will go through security where they'll have metal detectors.
Tamara?
You will then enter the Great Hall, where you can grab coffee, water, tea, and snacks, and visit our information tables and grab a seat. When the event begins at 10:30, you'll be introduced to state legislators and listen to guest speakers.
Now that you know what to expect, let's learn about legislators and why the event is so important. Who are legislators? They are the elected politicians chosen by you, the voters. They work at the State House in Boston by making laws and decisions that govern the way we live, such as keeping us safe and how state money is spent. Here are a few examples of legislators that work hard on disabilities issues. We have Senator Joan Lovely of Salem and Representative Christine Barber of Somerville, pictured at the top. And below are this year's awardees for the MDDC and the ARC, Senator Robyn Kennedy of Worcester and Representative Sean Garballey of Arlington. Now, Nora will talk more about this a little later. Next, Tamara will share with you how to find your legislators online. Tamara?
Thank you, Andre. I'd like to share with you how to find your legislator. Here is the site you can find your legislators. Let's walk through it together. First, you're going to enter the masslegislator.gov website into your browser. Then you're going to scroll down to the bottom of the page and type in your street address, city and town, and your zip code. After typing my work address, 108 Myrtle Street, Quincy, Mass. 02171, you can see our legislators are Representative Bruce Ayers and Senator John Keenan. To find out more about your legislators, click on their name. To find their mailing address, email, phone numbers, both in Boston and their local district office. Other information you might find includes committees they sit on, biography, and what bills they sponsor and co-sponsor. If you don't have access to online, you can also call the State House main number, which is 617-722-2000. There are several ways you can connect to your legislators. You can connect to your legislators on social media platforms to stay informed about their work. Many legislators can be found on platforms like Facebook, Twitter, X, and Instagram. Some legislators also have their own websites that have a contact page for you to ask questions or offer input. You can find these links on their social media accounts or by doing a quick Google search of their names. Next, Andre is going to run through some helpful tips when contacting your legislators. Andre?
Before I get into the tips, know that you don't have to be the expert in anything. You have to be the expert in your own life. So tip number 1, prepare what you want to tell them in advance. It's very important you know what you want to say. Write it down or discuss with a friend ahead of time so you can be clear and stay focused. So, how do I know what to say? Tamara, what do you say to your legislators?
I say when talking to my legislators, I tell them services and things that are important to me, such as mass health, PCA supports, supported decision making. And then I add a personal touch and tell them that I'm a mom of 2 with 2 teenagers on IEPs. If there's a bill that you are familiar that is important to you, you can share that. Share your own story and how it impacts you, and share from your heart.
Thanks, Tam. Tip 2, meet with your representative. Be sure to call ahead to make an appointment. This will help the representative schedule your meeting into their calendar. Tip 3, identify yourself. Whether you're emailing or calling, let them know who you are. Let them know if you are a part of any groups or coalitions you may be on. Maybe you are a parent or a sibling speaking on behalf of someone. You can share what community activities and events you enjoy, where you work, or where you volunteer. Tip 4, tell them where you live. Now, each representative is responsible for their own voting district. Legislators listen and meet with the residents who live in their districts. Tip 5, tell them why you are contacting them. What is the issue or bill you want to discuss with them? And how is this issue impacting you? It could be a concern you have or something exciting you want them to support. Tip 6, share your personal story that can support your position on the issue important to you or on a bill that impacts you or someone else. It can be an effective way to helping the legislator understand and support your idea or position on the bill. Tip 7, follow up. Make sure you give them your own personal business card or contact information. Let them know you would like them to get back to you through email, a letter, or a phone call. Next, I'm going to share a videotape discussion with my representative, Christine Barber.
All right, Hi, Representative Barber. My name is Andre Williams. I am a registered voter and have lived in Somerville for 10 years. Thanks for taking the time to meet with me today. To give you a little bit of a background on me, I have been a lead trainer for the Massachusetts Developmental Disabilities Council for over 9 years and have been an ambassador for Best Buddies for over 16 years.
Hi, Andre. It's so nice to see you again. Thanks for inviting me and for coming to talk with me today. I'm really excited to hear from you. I'm a strong supporter of programs to support people with developmental disabilities, and I really appreciate all the work that you're doing and the DD Council is doing in this area. So glad to see you. What can I do for you today?
Thank you. So I have learned that you are a lead sponsor to many policies that impact people with disabilities, especially around accessible and adaptable housing. One thing I was hoping to talk to you about is an act to creating higher education opportunities for students with intellectual disabilities, autism, and other developmental disabilities who have exited special education. This bill would remove barriers and allow people with DD to experience college and take classes. This is so important for people with disabilities and people with autism because, as someone who identifies with being on the spectrum myself, being able to go back to school would change my life dramatically and help me to build social skills outside of Best Buddies. It would also help me to build on my public speaking skills and open up more options for my future. It is Bill number House 1336. Have you heard of this bill?
I have heard of this bill, and I really appreciate you coming to talk with me about it today. I am a co-sponsor of the bill, which means I really support it. I actually first heard about it from another constituent, a young man named Isaiah, who also lives in Somerville. When I very first got elected, he was one of the first people I met with, and he told me his experiences of going through this program and going from Somerville High to Bunker Hill Community College, and how helpful that was to him. And since then, I've been trying to support Somerville in helping more students do that, and also work on this bill because people all over the state should be able to take this opportunity. So I am a real strong supporter of this bill, and we're going to try to move it through the legislature for a vote.
All right. I'm honored. So if you need any other further information, here's my contact information. I would be happy to follow up.
That's great and really helpful because we are trying to get the bill out of committee into a vote, and we're going to need more help and support. And so I appreciate your information because we'll have to work together to get this bill passed. So thank you for all the work that you are doing.
Thank you.
So let's recap the important tips that were seen in the video. Prepare. I did my homework. I reached out to the Mass DD Council to find out more about the bill. They sent me some easy read materials along with testimony from other advocates. The ARC is a good contact to find more detailed information about a bill. Call or email. I emailed my rep and set up an appointment in advance. Identify myself. I shared my name, where I work, and my involvement with Best Buddies. Where I live. I shared that I lived in Somerville, a district that Rep. Barber serves. Why was I contacting her? To tell her why supporting this bill on education was important to me. My personal story. I shared my personal story of how this bill would affect me. Follow-up. Following the video, I emailed Rep. Barber, thanking her again, and gave her my email address. Now, just an update since this video was created, the higher education bill passed is now a Massachusetts law. It took over 10 years to make this happen. It takes a lot of hard work and dedication to accomplish getting a bill passed, but the important thing is not to give up. Next, we are going to share with you and break down an acronym that we call KISS.
Great job, Andre, and thanks to Representative Barber. KISS stands for Keep It Short, Simple, Sincere, Straight, Sweet, and Sharp. Short. You often won't have a lot of time to share your thoughts. Legislators are very busy and they talk to lots of people, so be prepared for that. Simple. No fancy words. Use simple words so your point is understood. Sincere. Speak from your heart. Share your story if it relates to the issue or topic you're meeting about. Straight. Don't make things up. Use facts about your issue that are true and you can stand by. Sweet. Be polite. Even if you are discouraged, it's important to be polite. No one listens when they are being scolded at or yelled at. Sharp. Watch your appearance. Be a sharp dresser. Dressing well will help you to look professional and be taken seriously. Let your voice be heard. Don't fear your legislator. They work for you, and they're just like you. No one knows our lived experience. If we don't share our stories, no one will know what we need. To prepare for the reception, know that you may reach out to any of us should you want help scheduling a visit with your legislators. Feel free to contact members of the MDDC policy team marked with a star: Jennifer, Josh, and Caitlin. Members of the ARC are there to help too. Any additional information, please contact Lee or Mary listed near the bottom. Here are contact numbers and emails. Are there any questions before I introduce the next presenter?
No, I don't see any hands and I don't see anything in the chat. I did put in the chat all of the contact information, and Nora's is also in the in the chat as well, and she'll be on the next slide.
So now we are going to turn it over to the ARC of Massachusetts, Nora Ben. Nora Ben is the Director of Government Affairs and Strategic Partnerships at the ARC of Massachusetts. So take it away, Nora.
Great. Thank you, Andre and Tamara. I'm going to go ahead and share my slides. While I'm doing that, I see a question in the chat about if we'll be sharing the slides after, and we will. So you'll be getting all of these slides, which include links and all of our contact information. So hi, everyone. So glad to be here with you all today. As Andre said, my name is Nora, and I'm the Director of Government Affairs and Strategic Partnerships at the ARC of Massachusetts. And my background is actually working in the state legislature and working with our state legislators. So I'm really happy to be here today and talk a little bit about advocating in that space. I'm going to build off of the really great training that we just saw and talk about, first of all, the ARC of Massachusetts, and then go into a little bit more detail on the legislators we'll be honoring at the legislative reception, some tips and tricks for advocacy. I'll talk a little bit about some current issues that we're working on that you may hear about at the legislative reception. And then I'll give some tips for sharing your story, and then we'll have lots of time for questions. So some folks on here may be familiar with the ARC. I see some of our chapters on here. But for those who are not, the mission of the ARC of Massachusetts is to enhance the lives of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, including autism, and their families. And we fulfill this work through advocacy, which is what we'll be talking about today, for community supports and services that foster social inclusion, self-determination, and equity. And the ARC is a statewide organization. We work with a national chapter as well, doing some federal policy work. And then there are 17 ARC chapters across Massachusetts who we work with directly, and they are providing the direct service work to individuals and families. Okay. About legislators we'll be honoring, and the legislature as a whole, and then some tips for advocacy. This slide looks really overwhelming, and I'm just going to go through it really quickly to give you a sense of the legislative process and where we are right now in that process. It can be a pretty long process, as Andre said, and bills can take a really long time to pass, but I think it's really helpful to know where we are today. And you don't really have to worry about the details here, but just to give some context. So in Massachusetts, our legislature at the state level operates on a 2-year session, and we actually just began a new session in January of this year. So we'll be in this session for all of this year and all of 2026. And at the beginning of January, bills were filed. So we'll be talking a lot about bills today and at the legislative reception. And bills are really just ideas and concerns and attempts to make things work a little bit better across all aspects of our state. So those were filed in January, and we are currently in this third bullet point of working to build support for all of those bills. There are over 6,000 bills filed in the legislature for every 2-year session, and that's a lot of bills. So we are working to really build support for a handful of them that we think would be particularly impactful for folks with intellectual and developmental disabilities, their families, and the workforce that supports them. After this kind of building support phase, the bills will start moving through some committee hearings and debates. And we'll talk a little bit later in the presentation today about ways to get involved in those processes and learn about, kind of as we get to each step, learn about them and how to get involved. But just to quickly summarize, the bill goes through a hearing process where individuals can testify and share their support or opposition to a bill. It then passes one chamber, say in this example, the House of Representatives. It then moves to the Senate and hopefully passes there, and then it moves to the governor and becomes law. So there are a lot of different steps here, and it can feel kind of overwhelming to keep up with it all, but organizations like MDDC and the ARC can really help you stay up to date on what's going on and provide you the tools that are helpful at each step. Okay. Going to talk about the 2 legislators that are being recognized at this year's legislative reception. And they were mentioned earlier, but I'm going to talk a little bit more in detail about their work. So we are really excited this year to honor Senator Robyn Kennedy of Worcester and Representative Sean Garballey of Arlington. And their pictures are here on the screen. Senator Kennedy is the chair, which means she leads the Committee on Children, Families, and Persons with Disabilities, which is where most of the bills that we all work on and care about go to move through the legislative process. And she has been a real champion of those bills, focusing on healthcare and making healthcare more fair, as well as supporting the human service workforce, so the folks that work with individuals with disabilities. And if you click on the link when you get this PowerPoint, the link's at the bottom here and here, it'll take you to their page on the legislature's website so you can learn a little bit more about them. Representative Sean Garballey similarly has worked really hard on bills related to higher education access, like Andre talked about before. ABA, applied behavioral analysis therapy coverage for individuals with Down syndrome, which just recently became law. And then really pushing for more state funding for individuals who are turning 22 and leaving the school system. I have had the pleasure to work with both of these legislators, and I can say personally that they are both really wonderful people, very easy to talk to, and really care about the communities that they are serving. Okay. So some advocacy tools, and these are very similar to what Andre and Tamara mentioned. I just want to re-emphasize them because I know we're throwing a lot of information at you today. So here is the link, which is also in the chat, to find your legislators, which Tamara walked through. And as she mentioned, you can sign up for their newsletters and follow them on social media. We often have people ask us what the best way to reach out to them is, whether it's phone or email or in person. And the short answer is that it's really what you are most comfortable with. For example, I really don't like talking on the phone, so I'm almost always going to email or meet in person. But some people prefer to talk on the phone, or that's easier for them. So however you are comfortable doing it is effective. As Andre mentioned, though, if you are planning to meet in person, it's always a good idea to reach out ahead of time and set up a meeting because our legislators are incredibly busy. And we want to make sure that you are getting FaceTime with them or their staff who are also doing really important work. On the right side of your screen here is a link to sign up to the ARC of Massachusetts newsletters. We send out a newsletter every Thursday that has updates on all of the work we are doing. You can also follow us on social media and sign up for our action alerts. The action alerts, if folks haven't done them, they are a really great way to very easily contact your legislators. We provide all of the information you need. All you have to do is put in your contact information and the system will magically contact your legislator on your behalf and share the information that we are trying to get across. So would encourage everyone to sign up. And then my email is also at the bottom of the screen. I'm happy to answer any questions or come out to your community and do an advocacy training to share more information. Okay, I'm really quickly going to go through some current issues that the ARC and in most cases MDDC are also working on. The link on the side of your screen will take you to our full bill platform and our agenda, and there will also be more information provided to you at the legislative reception. But in a very quick summary, the ARC this legislative session is really focused on supporting the workforce, so the folks that work in our group homes and day programs and residential facilities to support individuals with disabilities. We're focused on increasing their pay and their benefits and getting them more training opportunities so that they can stay in these jobs for longer and really keep learning the tools to most effectively work with these folks. We're also working to expand the amount of time people have to plan for when they turn 22. And we're working on legislation that allows family members to be paid to be caregivers in some instances. We're also really focused on health equity, so making sure that our healthcare system works for everyone and can provide inclusive care. We're working to improve healthcare standards to make sure that doctors and nurses and other medical professionals have the tools and training to treat individuals with autism or other disabilities. We're working to expand applied behavioral analysis, ABA therapy for folks over 21 years old who are on mass health insurance. And then we're also working to generally prevent discrimination in healthcare so that anytime you are accessing a doctor or a hospital, individuals with disabilities are prioritized. Our last kind of area, Tamara actually mentioned earlier, supported decision-making, which is a bill that provides an alternative to guardianship for individuals who are able to make their own decisions about their life with the support of their family and friends. We have some legislation around police interactions for folks with autism to make sure that they're treated fairly and safely. And then increasing access to universal changing tables in public restrooms for folks who need help with using restroom facilities. And then again, quickly, I'm going to go over our budget priorities. So the state budget is one of the biggest bills that goes through the legislature every year. It is a multi-billion-dollar spending plan that funds all of the state services that are really important to all of us, from roads and bridges to group homes and really everything you can think of. So again, this link will take you to our budget information, and there will be more information in your folder at the legislative reception. But in general, as I mentioned earlier, we're working on pay rates and wages for folks who work in programs, increasing funding for individuals turning 22 to make sure they're able to access the programs in the adult system that are most helpful to them. And then increasing funding for community day and work programs. The chart on the right of your screen is meant to just show an example of the types of things we do. No need to study this in depth, but it shows you all of the different things we're looking at in the budget. Okay, now for the fun part, I'm going to talk a little bit about sharing your story. There is a lot of research out there that shows that when individuals tell stories, we hear it differently and we remember that information in a different way. We like to connect with other people and we like to be able to relate to them. So I think it was Andre earlier who said that you do not need to be an expert in everything. You do not need to know the details of a bill or of spending. That's our job, and we will do that work for you. Your role is really to share your story and add some emphasis and some importance to the work that we're all doing together. So some quick tips for the best way to share your story, and a reminder, as Andre said, that you are the expert on your own story, and that is all you need to be the expert on in order to do this advocacy. It's really important to be clear and concise, keeping it fairly short, 3 to 5 minutes, and really hitting on the key points that you think are the most important thing for the other person to know. Connecting your story to an issue. So what is it about your story that you think could have been better if there was a policy change or more funding? Explaining the impact on you or your family. What did it feel like if you were unable to access services or something like that? Explaining what that did to you and how that made you feel. We will always provide you with the ask, so it might be passing a bill or increasing funding, but connecting to our action alerts is a great way to learn those specifics. It's important to always follow up. As was said earlier, your legislators are really busy and they're talking to a lot of people. So things get lost sometimes, and like all of us, sometimes they need a reminder. So it's okay to email again or call if you haven't heard back in 1 or 2 weeks, and follow up on your information. And then a good rule of thumb in general is to practice. I think we all practice the things that we want to say and do. So find a friend, one of us at the ARC or MDDC, or a family member who you can practice sharing your story with. And again, just as a reminder, the policy stuff can feel complicated, but your stories are really what center the work and help legislators prioritize what they're going to work on. All right. I'll take questions in a moment, but this includes a link, which maybe we can throw in the chat too, if you haven't already registered for the legislative reception. And then, as was said earlier, if you need any help with scheduling meetings with your legislators, or if there's any other way that we can support you, please reach out to any of us at MDDC or the ARC, and we are happy to talk with you in advance of next week's legislative reception. I will stop sharing and then we can take some questions. Feel free to raise your hand if you have a question or throw it in the chat. I see some questions in the chat about if we'll be sharing slides in the recording, and we absolutely will. You'll all get that after today's presentation. I know it's a lot of information, so we'll give folks a minute or two to think of any questions. All right. Yeah, go ahead, Lee. Yeah.
I just wanted to introduce Jennifer and Joshua. I know we mentioned them earlier. But again, if anybody wants any support or any help to reach out to their legislators in advance to set up an appointment, they are very well skilled and eager to help out. So thanks, Jennifer, and thanks, Josh, for being here.
Any other questions? So
there's
question in the
Oh, do you see it in the chat, Nora?
Yeah, so I'm just going to read it out loud. Do you recommend that we ask what the state plan is in case the federal government changes to block grants for Medicaid, especially for those on a waiver program? That is a really good question. One of the things that, and Jennifer, feel free to jump in here if you have any thoughts. Our theme for this year's legislative reception is safeguarding our rights through advocacy, because we know that there are changes, being proposed and coming to the programs that we all really care about. So I think when you're doing the advocacy in general, but especially this year, it's really important to mention to your legislators that that Medicaid is important and that you want to protect it. I will also put a link in the chat to a current action alert that's being run by the ARC of the United States to reach out to your Congress people who are a little bit more focused on the specifics of any Medicaid cuts. And then we have some great resources on our website too about Medicaid that may be helpful. So I'll put those links in the chat. Gil, go ahead. I hope I said your name right.
Yes, you did. Hello? Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, there is a bit of an echo.
Sorry about that. I can do that.
This way. Yep, right here.
Yeah, we can hear better on Yuki's computer.
Right here. Yes, right here.
Okay.
Yeah, not the screen. Right here, the computer.
Are you able to meet with the person like through Zoom or something? Like through video call also?
Yeah, that's a great
To
question.
get information?
Yes, you absolutely are. That's a good example of if you email or call your legislator and say that you want to meet with them, they can definitely meet with you over Zoom. I think it's also helpful that by design, your legislators live near you. You know, they live in your community. So sometimes it's easier to meet with them at a coffee shop or in your neighborhood than getting all the way into Boston. And if you're at a school or a group home or some other organization, you can also invite them to come out to you. But Zoom is a great tool.
Go ahead. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yeah, Jennifer.
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to let you know, Jennifer Bertrand, by the way, from the Massachusetts Developmental Disabilities Council. Here at the council, we're also available if folks need some assistance, either scheduling a meeting if you're attending and you want to meet with your state rep while you're at the State House after the event. We certainly are available. The ARC does an amazing job helping people get connected. And I wanted to let you know, I dropped a Medicaid resources link, mass.gov. We recently did a Medicaid information session for the DD community, and there's a link to that information session at that Medicaid resources link. And we're also collecting stories. Lawmakers need stories so that when budget discussions are happening on the House floor or Senate floor and committees in Washington, D.C., they can put people's faces and names to this issue. And, you know, it's not just about a budget line item. So sharing your story is one way that you can help educate and inform lawmakers and make sure they know what they need to know so they can make responsible decisions. We can help you enter your story or write your story if using the link and doing it on your computer isn't accessible for you. You can reach out to us. Josh, who is also on the phone, Joshua Gladstone, is also excited to help. And we want to be connected with you so we can also continue to share information. I'm so grateful to the ARC for being such a valuable partner in bringing our community together. The more we pull together as a community, the more of a voice that we have, and they need to hear their story so they're making good decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially right now, there's so much going on. You know, so we're all in it together and providing resources. And between the MDDC and the ARC, we have so many great tools for you all. Any other questions, or Andre or Tamara, anything else you want to add? Okay. Well, thank you all so much for being here. As we said, we'll share the recording and the PowerPoints out with everyone who registered. And feel free to share it if someone in your network wasn't able to be here today, but might benefit from the tools. And we're looking forward to seeing you all next week at the legislative reception.